What famous place is not worth visiting? Sherlock Holmes' house on Baker Street in London. Of course I love Sherlock Holmes, so as a Taoist I took the tour. Not far into walking around the house it dawned upon me. This is a fake set of a fictional character. What am I doing here? Atlantic City? Monopoly got me good. Plymouth Rock, Massachusetts. Despite all the rage, it's still just a rock in a cage. According to this thread, never go to Egypt, Hollywood, and Dubai. Noted. Schlan Vire Push Gwingel Gogarakorndro Bolschland Asilia Gogagok in Wales, nothing there except an Edinburgh Wallen Mills shop. Which is just silly as Edinburgh is nearly 300 miles away. Hollywood, it's seedy and disappointing. It's full of entire industries, cough Scientology cough, that take advantage of starry-eyed twits. Plymouth Rock. I don't know how famous it really is outside of New England, but it's a rock that marks where the Pilgrims supposedly first landed in Massachusetts. It is quite literally just a medium-sized rock with 1,620 carved in it, but every elementary school teacher around Massachusetts at least hypes it up for the class field trip to see a literal rock that is not big, impressive, or really historically relevant. Driving an hour on a bus to see this was the most anticlimactic thing, and I would not particularly recommend. Land's End, UK. Heralded as the fourth most disappointing attraction in the UK. It's not even disappointing enough to win an award. Edit, I mean the landmark in Cornwall, not a clothing store. Dearie me. Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's a sidewalk, and outside of maybe big events where they may clean the ones around where photos may be taken, it otherwise is just covered in dirt from people's shoes, and some are barely legible because they haven't been cleaned in ages. In third grade a meteor crashed in the backyard of a kid's house in my neighborhood. He talked about it every day at school and said people weren't allowed to see because NASA was collecting samples. A few days later he said we could go see, but everyone had to pay $5. Me and a few friends paid him and went over his house later that day. When we got to the backyard we saw a 3-foot deep hole that was clearly dug by a shovel. We called him out on it and he said something like, "That's where it landed, but the scientists dug around it with shovels to take samples." Worst $5 I've ever spent. I have no idea where you are nowadays, but F you, Benji. Me, an Egyptian, ah shit, here we go again. Times Square on New Year's Eve. Just forget it. It has never been worth it. Platform 9 3/4 in King's Cross Station, London. Stupid metal statue on a straight wall, a horrible queue to taking a photo with you on it, and another 100-meter long queue to the small and very expensive Harry Potter shop. I was there middle of the day in off-season, don't want to even think about it on high season. Egypt. It's like if phone scams were a materialized location. You get there and right away the airport is going to start scamming you, take your electronics away and tell you that you need permits for them, which they will gladly sell you, and then tell you that it's the wrong one and have you buy another one. The hotel you stay at will check your bags again like the airport did and again tell you that you need permits or whatever random thing they decide they can get away telling you needs one. The police will extort money from you if they think they can. Fake police will come up to you and fine you or tell you to follow them to different sites where they will charge you. Children will run up to you and ask if you want to ride their camel very aggressively. They will cut you off with their camel and not let you move forward, tell you it's free, and then try to charge you insane amounts of money and call their camel pimp over to deal with you if you don't pay. If you don't get on the camel, they will often even get the camel to attack you. It's all pretty wild, it's not worth it. I work close to Times Square in Manhattan. If you have an ad blocker on your computer, you will hate Times Square. Native Buffalonian here. The Anchor Bar, the home of the original chicken wing, does not have the best wings in Buffalo. It's a total tourist destination. Plymouth Rock. It's a rock surrounded by a cage with a date on a shitty cold beach. That's it. No, you can't touch it. Hollywood Walk of Fame, dirty ass street with cheap shops and homeless everywhere. Only nice spot was near the theater. Maybe less famous than the question meant, but about 15 years ago my friends and I took a road trip to Centralia, Pennsylvania, the abandoned town with a decades-long mine fire burning under it that the Silent Hill movie was loosely based on. We thought there would be tons of abandoned buildings to look at, creepy places to see, adventure to be had. We were so excited, and we were like 6 or 7 hours away, so it sounded like a fun trip. We got there, and there was just nothing. All of the buildings are gone. The creepiest thing we found was a very well taken care of cemetery, and the only really abandoned thing to see was the stretch of interstate that had been routed around, which had a little bit of fun graffiti on it back then, but in years since it's become just a giant paint stain. We ended up driving to Gettysburg instead and going on some ghost tours, so it was still a fun trip, but there was like Nothing to see in Centralia, at all. Edit. Whoa. This blew up. They're pretty awful, but I have an old album of photos from when we went in 2006 I think. Egypt, they treat tourists like garbage. Checkpoint Charlie in Berlin. It used to be the border between the US and Soviet sectors, but all that's left of it is a shack and a sign, and the only thing you can do is pay to get your photo taken with someone in uniform. There's a frickin' McDonald's next to it. Hollywood. I don't mean in the colloquial sense, but rather the actual neighborhood. The neighborhood includes the Walk of Fame and the Chinese Theater. The neighborhood is sketchy, dirty, filthy, disorganized, high crime, and just plain icky, and has been that way since at least the 1950s. The absolute worst period was from the mid-1970s to the mid-1990s, but the neighborhood just sucks less today. Hell, there's a big reason that the residents of West Hollywood literally seceded from any association with the Hollywood community, and formed their own municipality in 1984. There are plenty of fun entertainment industry related things to do throughout the Los Angeles area, in Hollywood as the world understands it. Just not Hollywood proper. While the Louvre is amazing and can consume entire days of walking, don't bother fighting the crowds to see the Mona Lisa. It's tiny and has a crowd of tourists dozens deep all taking pictures. No flash photography be damned, so all you see is flash reflecting off the protective glass. Also, rumor has it that the real Mona Lisa is in a basement and that the one you see is just a very convincing replica. You can see Mount Rushmore perfectly fine from the road. No need to pay to see it. The Liberty Bell. You can see it just fine from the sidewalk, and that's about as close as you would get to it inside too. No need to spend money just to wait in line to see it. Plus, there's tons to do in Philly besides look at a bell. Edit, I've been informed that it's free. Last time I was there, I was a child, so my memory is a bit hazy. Not the Louvre, but the Mona Lisa specifically. You're in a room full of assholes just like yourself, constantly trying to snap a picture of a painting that's smaller than a movie poster. Underwhelming is about the kindest description I can manage. Niagara Falls is a really cool sight, but it's not worth a trip if you are staying on the American side. The Canadian side is way better and has more things to do. Dubai is a twisted parody of everything wrong with modern society, and I judge anyone who goes there for their Insta pics. Edit, grammar because I used it like a fool. And also, thank you for silver. Dubai, yes, the entirety of Dubai. It forces labor by stealing passports of individuals who work there. Sometimes it's not about not worth visiting and more like, only worth it at particular times. Empire State Building during the day? Lame sauce. You can see lots of cool stuff, but it's way overcrowded and you never get a really nice view outside. But the same visit near closing, well after dark? Wow. Stunning views of Times Square, and overall nighttime cityscapes. Not as many people so you can actually enjoy the visit. Plus the guards are super friendly, and when it's near the end of the day, they are chattier and happy to point out some cool sights you might not have thought were at all interesting. The Alamo. There's no basement. The Empire State Building. It's $44 to $77 and you wait for like 90 minutes to get into the first elevator, then wait at least another 90 minutes to go further up. I gave up after 2 hours total and went and had fun in the city instead of spending 3 to 4 hours of my life standing in line. I was fortunate to go on top of the WTC in 2000 and I'm sure the views were much better from there. And my understanding is Top of the Rock is much better organized, shorter waits and better views of Midtown today. Hollywood. I took a trip while I was stationed in California and it was the most absolute disgusting place I've ever seen. Besides the homelessness issue there, you'll find trash all over the streets and sketchy businesses, liquor stores, souvenir shops, etc. I'm sure when there's a big event going on, the city cleans up for a day, but it just looked like shit when I went. Miami Beach. It's a parade of douchebags driving flashy cars, most likely rentals, and insanely overpriced restaurants and bars. Venice during the season. Good God, the place is crushed with people. You can hardly move at certain times and you are always bumping into folks. Other places with the same problem during the season/summer. Yellowstone, Yosemite, Zion, and any amusement park. Monacan Peace in Brussels. So tiny and bonus with a lot of people hiding the sight. The only fun part is that he's dressed differently at points. Mall of America. It's literally just a giant mall with the same stores as a small mall. Sometimes even the same store twice. Leaning Tower of Pisa, just a small town without much going on, then a ton of tourists pretending to hold it up. Go to Florence instead. The Moon. No atmosphere. Edit, thanks for the upvotes and an award. I fully admit it's a dad joke, but as a dad and granddad, what can you expect? Besides, the old ones are the best, smiley face.